It's technically 11:58. Should we wait till
You
noon?
may go ahead and start.
I'm going to call to order the July 7th, 2021 special meeting for the Tipp City Board of Education. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Melanie, you can start with the roll.
President Dunaway,
Here.
Vice President Zakor,
Here.
Corinne Dahl,
Here.
Joanne Heatherly,
Here.
Simon Patry.
Here.
We're all in attendance and we have a quorum.
Great. Okay, looking for, oh, I thought Brad said something. Looking for a motion and approval of the agenda.
I'll move. Second.
Moved and seconded by Mrs. Dahl and Mrs. Zakor. Is there any discussion?
Madam President, I just want to note that we started the meeting 2 minutes early. Technically, we shouldn't be starting it before noon. I would suggest that we wait to take any official action until afternoon.
Okay,
It's coming right up here, but
go ahead, sorry.
it's coming right up here, but it's still 11:59.
Okay. I have 11:59. What time do you have, Melanie? That clock's always wrong.
11:59.
Okay, we'll just wait 15 seconds, 20 seconds.
I reflect this down there.
I just switched to noon. We're good to go. Okay, anything else on the first and the second discussion?
I don't have it.
Okay,
All right. Dahl,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dunaway,
yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patry.
Yes.
Okay, new business. Item 2A, board agenda format for the 2021-2022 school year. Well, the remaining of this year. Vote on whether or not to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance or to revert back to taping the board meetings with in-person public attendance. Looking for a motion and a second.
I would move that we continue live streaming of the board
Wait,
meetings.
looking for a motion and a second.
I'm making a motion. I would, the recommended action is a question, and so I'm making a motion. I would move that we continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance and including taping the board meetings as required by our minute policies.
Okay, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Now we can discuss, right?
Yeah, we had a motion and a second. Now we're discussing.
My only concern with the live streaming is that I'd really like to get back into the buildings and go into the different locations so that we can, I think if people could see those buildings and the work that needs to be done and the amount of work, it would help us communicate and create an understanding of something needs to be done, especially like at Broadway.
Right.
But I'm not sure that we can stream from those locations. So
Correct.
I like the streaming. There's nothing wrong with the streaming. I just wanted to get out into the different locations, get into our buildings. I'd like to have principals and teachers kind of showcase what's going on in their buildings. I've seen other school districts that do that, and it's just great inclusion and kind of this holistic thing instead of being in this building, removed from where the education happens. But I last time with Mr. Sagona, we didn't have those capabilities. It was really limited because of the technology that we own to get out of this room.
Right. Yeah, I see your point. And we, at one point, we discussed having tours.
Yes.
Like if we go to
Yeah,
Broadway,
yeah.
if we go to Nevin Coppic and the board meets there, you can do a 30-minute tour ahead of time.
Right.
Because a lot of our community members, if they don't have kids in the district anymore, you don't get into the buildings. You might go to a football game
Right.
or a basketball game, but you're not getting into Nevin and
Right.
Broadway, and LT Ball seems to be in
Because-
somewhat good shape now.
Yeah.
I've had experience in districts where whether they have the meetings out in the buildings, they always did building tours.
Mhm.
And so the board and community members could do walkthroughs.
Yeah.
And so you could see the buildings that were set up for school days and school functions. And so some had meetings. They did a meeting per building, and that took care of the first half of the year.
Yeah,
And then they went back to the regular board space. Some did the tour separate from the meetings.
right.
Right, and then,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, so the way we used to do it is I remember Liz always had my first 4 years on the board, like a camcorder, and she recorded it, and then we go on Kit TV,
Right.
and we'll still do it online, we'll still have the minutes.
Yes.
And I know, I think you watch it more than I do, Ann, but I think at the last meeting, I forget how many people watched it live versus a lot of people watched the meeting after. So we are still getting a lot of viewership after our meetings. I think the majority are now watching it after, so that'll still be.
We got an update this week from BASA, and they reminded us to take this question up, with your board, because it may impact revising some policies if you give some permissions to remote participants, i.e. community members. Some districts have allowed community comment to come in remotely. That they would open, community comment section through the remote. And if that's the case, you would have to revise your board policy. So they said, if you're advised any for COVID and you're going to continue remote practices past COVID, just make sure that you review your policies and make sure they're in line with whatever the board's doing.
Right. What are your thoughts?
Our minutes are tied into the video or to the live streaming.
Well, to the video.
Yeah, so
to
Liz would
our
do
tape
that on her
recording, we would
camcorder.
tape the meeting if we didn't live stream it. We would tape it, and that would be the
And
The
you can
tape of
still
record.
click on the little
Yeah.
film strip. and
They tag that afterwards, when
Okay.
when they, format it correctly to put on YouTube, they have to go in and tag that. That doesn't automatically happen.
Okay, and then secondly, I'd like to know, for the live stream, it goes up on YouTube, correct? Would it continue to go up on YouTube?
No, it goes on our website in Kit TV. Am I correct or incorrect?
No, live streaming.
No,
Oh.
the
Oh,
live stream,
right.
yeah, the record, the taped record that Mr. Patry alluded to is the live stream, from the meeting. There isn't a separate taping now. It's the same, feed. And so when we put that on our website, does it still funnel through YouTube? Brent? It does, okay, okay.
Oh, that's
So then-
good.
So then my question is, so technically, we don't have ultimate control. If it goes live stream, I just want to make sure that if YouTube has the prerogative, if you will, for whatever reason, to not have that there. I mean, in other words, it's out of our control once we're putting it on YouTube, correct? Versus if we do the video ourselves, then we directly control that and retain that as a record. So that's the question I have a little
I don't know.
interest in.
Okay.
For
Yeah,
for you to, for being the place of domicile would be the YouTube, so therefore, how do we guarantee preservation of that?
So one of the things is, like, if you go back to one of our old meetings, like April 26th is the one I'm using just as an example, and you click, it gives you, and when you click on it, it gives you three options: view the agenda, print the agenda, view minutes, or watch the video. So when you click on, and so you click in there, you can click the watch the video, and then it gives you a menu of what parts to go back to. So I think part of the answer to your question is that it lives in board docs.
Does it?
That video does, right? So if you click onto it, you can go right to it, although it does have the YouTube tag. So maybe that's where it's stored.
Say exactly, so
Yeah.
I just feel that that's
So
a,
you're saying
That's a
if
good question. I never
YouTube
thought about
cleanses the
that.
record, then we may not have a
Well,
record, is what you're
anything
saying.
can
Okay, yeah.
But I
that's
think
what
a
mean.
part of our policy was that we had to keep it, I'm almost certain,
On a tape.
it has
A
to be
tape or something,
located here too. So if YouTube cleansed it, somebody could come to this location, and we had to provide a computer. Wasn't our board?
Yeah, with a Chromebook and.
Yeah, we
and
had to provide a copy of it, and we had to provide a method for them to view
Right.
that.
Right,
as well.
physically here,
So
right.
we have to check to see if
and we're making
by
an
it being
assumption.
in board docs, if that is a separate copy of the live stream, or if the
Yeah.
live stream, if that links back to YouTube, and then we're incumbent on YouTube to make sure that record stays.
Because
intact.
the reason I bring this up, if I recall correctly, we were, in the interest of everybody's time and the treasure and the minutes, we were putting, I believe, a little more emphasis on the public accessing the video portion
Yes,
for complete details versus the written minutes.
Right.
So therefore, I think it's really prudent that we make sure we're retaining that complete detail with with live
I
stream.
know the Zoom records. I mean, you could just do Zoom and not do YouTube. Save it on Zoom, still load the Word docs.
We pay for this.
But I don't
platform.
know the details.
Don't we pay for this platform to use YouTube?
Brad would
And
know
so it,
the cost.
I don't think we pay for
No,
YouTube.
so-
No.
No, we do pay for Zoom, we do not pay for YouTube.
okay,
And we are able to archive all of our YouTube studio accounts. Underneath the district, we are able to archive those and save those
oh,
digitally here also.
okay.
So we can take them so they are on property, quote unquote, and also at the storage with YouTube.
So have we started doing that yet? With these videos? We haven't yet.
I know.
So if
We
we
have
make
not, but
that
we
part of the
definitely can do-
expectation that we have a copy here, then that would solve.
That answers any
question.
concerns, any
Yeah.
future concerns, okay.
So this is only an anecdotal. I don't have anything to substantiate this. It does seem like our viewership is increased, whether it's being viewed live or being viewed afterwards, which shows engagement of our stakeholders. And this is the anecdotal part. I have not heard any complaints about the quality of the audio using the YouTube streaming. So I think because of the investment of our community and that as a perk compared to going back to this audio and video recording that we used prior to COVID, I would be in favor of us continuing to live stream.
So you're saying there were some questions about clarity with the old taping
Yes.
versions of the meeting?
Yes.
So our board has made it one of its key points that we are trying to increase transparency as it relates to the school district. Part of that, we added an extra community members discussion part at the end of the meetings. And we continuously state how we want people to be informed. This board has voiced concerns of people being quote unquote misinformed, has voiced concerns related to criticism it's receiving and things of that nature. And so the other thing is that we have an ethical obligation under our policy of 123 to ensure that we encourage ongoing communications among the board members, the board, student staff, and the community. And in our philosophy and policy 118, we are also required to maintain two-way communications with citizens of the district, which requires us to keep them informed of the progress and problems of the school district. To me, part of that requirement is that we're able to provide them that information as timely as possible. I'm in the opinion that most people do watch these live stream, and based on what I've seen occur on social media, real time during our live stream meetings, we are actually achieving engagement with the community live as it's ongoing. That's providing them the ability to discuss and exchange ideas as well as opinions as it's occurring, which is helping the community to be able to react and understand the issues as they exist at that time. I think that's a very important function. The other thing is too, is the reality of our society is that while we want people to be here in person, some of them probably can't be, and that's an increasing number. You have no longer single, family wage earners. You have both parents working, you have kids at home and remote work at other places. And so they may not be able to be here in person. And so they may want to watch that live stream. Where technology is moving, live stream is the way to go when it comes to public meetings in the government. The Nielsen ratings reflect that. Our Americans spend about 10 hours online. That includes watching government action. And so based on our goals of transparency and engaging the community, I see no reason to stop the live streaming other than two reasons. In my opinion, those reasons are one, technology related. On a technology side, the cost of implementing the technology required to live stream at other locations of our school district are nominal in comparison to the overall budget and the important function that live stream performs. Two, as it relates to the YouTube recordings, whether it's on YouTube or in another format, we presently have an obligation to record those in a way that is saved. And so I know of multiple softwares that allow you to record YouTube videos that are published, that would allow us to archive it outside of any board doc software, outside of any YouTube software that allow it to be transmitted based on the I guess, traditional or market prevalent software to view that type of video. And so based on that, I don't think technology really is an issue. I think timeliness of understanding what's happening in our school district is more important than the costs associated with it. On the other hand, the only other reason beyond that, then, I think, is that we don't like the fact that people are watching this live and that they're going online and engaging in an exchange of ideas real time on social media because of how that information may be critical of the Board of Education. Some members of our board have indicated that those discussions were, in their view, unfair and even explored the idea of engaging counsel, and if there was a way to enforce the board policy that applies to our school district to silence those voices. I feel we have an ethical obligation to listen to those voices and provide them the platform to do it. And so for me, that would be limiting them their ability to react real time and exchange those ideas that are necessary. And if we hear things that are critical of the board, I think our obligation at that point is not to silence those voices, but look internally, think about what they're saying, and if appropriate, change accordingly.
I don't recall hearing anyone during this discussion say that we're afraid of being criticized. I can only speak for myself, having been criticized a lot. I'm not afraid of that. What I would like to do is get our buildings safe and a place where students can be educated without melting in August. And one of the things I think we need to do is peel back that and get our public in those buildings. I don't have any problem with streaming, live streaming, YouTube. I don't really care in what fashion we deliver our meetings to the public. What I would like to do, though, as expediently as possible, is get our parents, get our stakeholders, get our teachers to be at meetings in our buildings so we can talk about what's going on. What manner we do it, whether it's Zoom or whether it's YouTube, when we get the technology to live stream it at Broadway, let's do it. But let's not wait to get in Broadway until we can live stream it, because that just further delays people understanding the need and us having conversations about how to correct the buildings, how to fix them, for lack of a better word, to make it a better learning environment for our students. I don't mind being criticized, and I don't want to stop anybody from criticizing me at all. I mean, that's how we all improve ourselves, is through criticism, constructive, targeted, whatever. It's a part of life. But I do want to get us in our buildings, and I do want to get principals showing us, doing walkthroughs, teachers showing off and showing where we can improve. I think that needs to happen. And again, if we're just going to delay it because you think I'm afraid of being criticized, that's totally not true. Anybody can criticize me every day of the week. That's their right. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, to me, there's nothing more transparent than inviting our community to come to the board meetings early and having a tour where, let's just say we have 50 people and each board member takes a group of 5 people. You're engaging with your community members, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, a person who just moved here, somebody who moved here 50 years. I haven't been in this building since I had a grandson 30 years ago. To me, that's what it's about. And we're, like you said, we're here. Yeah, we have to get we have to focus on our facilities.
Yeah.
So
We didn't always have great attendance prior to COVID, and we don't have any guarantee that we'll have any better in person. I think we have some new people that would probably, if we task them with that as the goal, I'm sure they would get us there.
Oh, I
think
agree with you.
letting them get comfortable with the technology of holding it live streamed here and continue the way we've been doing. And when they're ready to move us into the building, I think they're hearing the importance of that as a goal for us as a board to get us into our facilities.
And I completely understand that, but this is the same conversation that we had 2 years during a non-COVID time, Joellen. I mean, we've been trying to do this for a long time, and our schools crumble. Our teachers are melting, our students are melting.
Right.
And I understand that we want them to be comfortable here, but if the goal is to get out,
Well, our students,
Sometimes you just gotta jump in, you
our
know?
students and staff aren't comfortable in the current conditions.
No.
So, I mean, if
That's true.
that just sells your point.
Right.
If a community member can't come here, can't go to those buildings and be in the appropriate temperature because we need better air conditioning, how do you think our staff and students feel when they're in those buildings all day long?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So, you know what I'm saying? You can't come for a 2-hour meeting. These kids are in school for 7.5 hours and the staff are there for 9 hours because they have to come before their contracted time is before the school day and after the school day.
Mhm.
And then you think about a principal who stays for 2 or 3 hours and does paperwork or has meetings with parents or staff. They're in that building 10 hours.
You know what? People might be more comfortable going to a building where they see, where their kid goes to school and where they've met teachers. We might
It's not
have better
intimidating.
attendance.
It's
at-
not intimidating, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
other thing too is, because of the technology piece, we could do 2 months in a row at the same building. So you could do 2 months at Broadway, 2 months at
Set it
Nether.
up, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's just a suggestion.
So in the entrance,
All right, respectfully, I have some things I'd like to say, if that's all right.
Respectfully, I'd like to have a chance. I thought Robert's rules is typically, I thought we were trying to follow Robert's rules.
Oh,
Aren't we?
yeah, sure.
Okay, I thought that the way it is that each member should have a chance to speak at least once before the same member speaks twice at the exclusion of one member having a chance to speak at all. So that's why I'd like to speak now.
I'm glad to let you have your second turn to talk before I have mine. That's fine.
Well, I was asked a question and I answered it, but I'd like to give an opinion now, if I may. I'm in favor of live streaming. I think that it does check a lot of boxes in a lot of areas. And if it's definitely something that we can preserve, which it sounds like we can, then I think that answers that question. But I also like the idea of being in the buildings. So I think, I would lean towards the live streaming over the video recording, but I would think we could maybe try to find a way to incorporate both. And I don't see why that would be such a problem, really. I don't know. Nominal cost, it was stated that it's nominal cost to live stream, but nobody's presented a research with cost on that. So I think that would be nice to know. I think it'd also be nice to know how the people that are going to be responsible for implementing this might feel about it. And as far as transparency, yes, I think it does provide immediate transparency. And I think that transparency is something when we raise that, or a board member raises transparency as being an important issue, I would hope that that concept would be consistently applied, not only to board meetings, streaming, but also consistently applied to anything such as getting transparency and correct statements out there in the form of district statements, press releases, whatever channel format that may be, because I think it's all important. And that's my thought.
So my statements do not in any way indicate anything related to an opinion as to the urgent need to address our facilities. I share those feelings, and I am moving forward and investigating our best options that are timely as a member in conjunction with the committee of facilities. We've taken a lot of action related to that. The fact that I think that live streaming is important and the technology concerns I think can be easily addressed are not mutually exclusive of our addressing our facilities concern, nor does it prevent us to have tours of the buildings provided by the facilities operations person, which is Ms. Hagan or Mr. Stefanik, and nor does it prevent us from getting the technology required to do those tours. We don't have to have a public meeting to do the tour. We can certainly have a public meeting at the facility. I don't believe that the technology required to live stream these meetings is that difficult to implement. It's just a matter of making that decision and pursuing it. And when I say the cost is nominal, I'm indicating in relation to the overall budget that we have and the importance and the service it provides.
What could be like a nominal cost? Because I'm imagining, and Brad,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can correct me, like $5,000 to get the equipment to do live streaming at different locations.
Yeah, when we're looking at a system like this, the issues we have to look at is something that is mobile.
Yeah.
Where this is not mobile or designed for that use. We also would have to look at mics for you.
Yeah.
And also a sound system to project the sound to the audience, but also to be able to pipe in straight into the devices that are actually using the streaming.
Okay.
So you don't run into the sound issue that previously we had years ago. So that's the things that we have to look at. And when I say mobile, they'll be in cases that we can take to other
Yes.
buildings and they're safe
Yes.
and we're not, continually breaking.
Throw them in a
things.
bag.
Correct.
A suggestion for the board to consider when you go in there and you put in here, the sound system. I think the sound system is an issue if you're talking about going into something like an auditorium, or you're talking about going in somewhere like a gymnasium. If we would go into a space a little bit bigger than this, but not much bigger than this, let's say
Library or
a
classroom.
library or a large classroom or a conference room or something like that, we would still have limited in-person numbers of 20 to 30, if you will, but then you wouldn't need the sound system because we're still in close proximity, and so we're not using a sound system here.
Correct. We would just need the mics to
You
have
just
the
need-
ability to plug in.
Yes, just have the microphone so it could feed into the YouTube feed.
We actually got costing on that because that was something we looked at last fall. I don't know where that, I know that's something that the board discussed prior to COVID because people were saying that they had a hard time hearing us. So I don't know where Dave has that information, but I know that him and Jim did get costs for microphones because we've had people ask us at citizen comments, can you get microphones so we can hear better? So that, I don't know if you want to check an email or a folder, but that was, yeah, that was looked at. So there should be, I know prices change, but it's a starting point.
So with all due respect, the nominate or the motion was to, are we going to live stream continue and go forward or not? I thought the importance of this meeting was for us to come in and to vote on personnel issues. And now we're having a lengthy discussion. While it's an important discussion, it seems like we can task those folks with helping us get to wherever we can as far as moving us into the buildings. But the motion is to, are we going to continue live streaming or not? So can we move forward towards that vote so we can get to the voting part as far as personnel, because I'm going to be leaving in a few minutes. I thought
at 12:30?
I made it very clear at our last meeting that I could come in here and vote as long as we
Okay.
didn't have a lengthy discussion.
Well, we're
about
ready to vote.
issues.
No, we're ready to vote.
Okay.
So,
And I would also hope that after we vote, maybe we could move the agenda around a little bit to get to the voting of personnel, or I'm going to have to leave and you guys can just
Well,
vote with the four of you.
It's right in
yeah,
order.
the good thing is we have a quorum, but we will definitely, okay, if there's no further discussion, Melanie, you can call for the vote.
What's the
Can I
motion
just
again?
add-
The motion,
I just want to say that, like, I'm all for whatever method you want to do, but please understand that I want to be back in the buildings.
And what I'll say is that we have a little bit of time, you're talking about time, but we have a little bit of time because now is not the time to go in the buildings. We have furniture in the
Right.
hall.
oh, yeah, we're talking about
Floor, stuff like that. So we're
September.
talking
We
about
would be looking at
September.
like September, yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm looking at. September, October, yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Very good.
go ahead, Melanie.
What is
Okay.
the motion?
The motion is to vote on whether or not to continue live streaming.
That's
That's not the motion. The motion is I moved to continue live streaming of the board meetings with in-person public attendance and including taping of the board meetings as required for our minutes. That was the motion. It wasn't changed, but
Right.
it's not to vote on whether or not to continue. It's to vote to continue live streaming.
Gotcha, correct.
Is that the motion, Melanie?
We're voting on
Yes.
to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance, and the rest of the sentence is correct.
No, the rest is not. I'm sorry. It's public attendance and to continue taping board meetings as required by our minutes policies.
That's what it says.
That's not what it says now.
Okay, go ahead, Melanie, ready for the vote.
I'm sorry.
At that point, do I add a motion, change a motion?
I would like to hear from the secretary what the motion, what you have on there, please, before I vote.
Vote on whether or not to continue live streaming of board meetings, with in-person public attendance, or to revert back to taping board meetings with in-person public attendance.
So therefore, we don't have congruency between what Mr. Patry said is the motion.
Point of
versus what
clarification.
you're saying is the motion. So now we need.
Point of
clarity.
clarification, Madam President. At the onset of this item on the agenda, I indicated the recommended action was a question and not a motion. And therefore, I made a motion that was seconded by Ms. Heatherly. My motion was stated very closely, if not exactly as, I move to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance and to continue taping board meetings in accordance with our minute policy. That was a motion that was made orally. That was a motion that was seconded by Ms. Heatherly. It appears that Ms. Fox is not, when she placed the motion on the board docs document, did not amend that motion to reflect my actual motion and just simply restated the initial recommended action that is no longer applicable pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order.
So Simon and Melanie, for clarification, what should have happened is, Simon, you should have just made a motion to redo it. And then that way, the first one would have been, we would have voted on the first one. And because you amended it, then Melanie should have changed it in the minutes. But Melanie, I don't think you picked up on the fact that when Simon made that motion, it wasn't, his motion wasn't exactly, because it says vote on whether or not to continue. And Simon's motion was to vote on to continue.
So I
that's-
just
It
was
should be
gonna add
changed
a
at the
new
bottom where
motion.
it says vote, motion and voting. That's where the change should be made.
Right, the change, right. So we have the original motion, which is the recommended action is not what Mr. Patrick stated. So you probably didn't really pick up on that.
The board docs.
So I can delete,
Right.
so that I can delete the current motion and just revise and
Yes.
say, vote on whether or not to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance and to continue so for the purpose of the minutes.
No, you need to get rid of the not. So it's vote on
Vote to
to
continue.
continue. So the whether or needs to be
Vote,
gone.
okay, vote.
Vote or just vote to continue. So the
Or
or,
continue.
sorry, Mark, you tell her because you're closer. instead
You're
of me.
fine, vote to continue live streaming of board meetings.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
In-person
I'm
public-
gonna actually type it up to you.
I think she has it.
And she
Yeah,
just
so I
stated
just
it.
deleted that. So that's
So read what
it's
you
a
have.
very
Melanie.
short
Yeah, read what you
sentence.
have.
Vote to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance and to continue to do so for the purpose of the minute.
And to continue taping board meetings.
Yeah,
Or recording.
Recording,
Yeah,
yeah.
but again,
Recording.
to that end.
Right.
It's all the same tape. It's all,
Yes.
the live stream is the tape,
Right.
once we save it in
Sure.
our document system, like
Right.
Brad was talking about. So it's not a separate taping. It's
Correct.
all the same thing.
And Ms. Fox, for your clarification, the board docs recommended action is not a motion until a motion is made.
Right.
So that in itself is not a motion. I did not amend something. I simply made a motion on the board agenda format. The recommended action was a question, and I answered that question with my motion. And so when that happens, you have to type in what I have stated or said rather.
So I'm adding a motion
You're
or I'm revising the motion.
the recommended action is not a motion until it's made. So then what you have to do is make it so the motion is what was said.
will you read what you now have one more time slowly? Just make sure it's accurate. Go ahead.
Vote to continue live streaming of board meetings with in-person public attendance and to continue recording board meetings for the purpose of the minutes.
With, yeah, and in-person public attendance.
Yeah, that's in there.
Okay, I can hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay,
Again, the
that-
recommended action, just for everybody who's either on or not on board docs, recommended action is at the top. The motion and the voting piece is at the bottom. When somebody makes the actual motion, the motion gets typed in at the bottom section where it says motion and voting. Recommended action is just a narrative about what you're going to be talking about, a general statement.
What do you mean by typed in at the bottom? I don't see that.
it says how we all voted.
Oh,
Yeah.
On ours, on the
Oh,
record
the
keeping at
shows
the
how we
bottom.
vote.
I wanted
Yes.
to make sure that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Simon, am I okay to keep this sentence and then you are the first one motioning? with that sentence, correct?
Yes, yes.
And then
The motion.
Joellen, your
Second.
Yes.
this motion.
Yes.
Now we're gonna take the vote. And we have Patry,
Yes.
Heatherly.
Yes.
Dahl.
I wanted to ask a question really quick. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So remember last time when we had the technology mess up? If we say that all of our meetings will be live streamed, I mean, we kept everybody waiting for it. There was no way to move on because that's what we said.
Yeah.
Is there
45
any
minutes.
kind of caveat that we can add saying live streaming is the preferred method? But like that hour was just like, we were handcuffed.
Yeah.
Is there any way to, all live streaming as technologically possible, but
Point of order there.
Well,
We're at the voting stage.
right,
If there's another way. you
okay,
have to-
no.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's a good point.
right. I see your, go ahead. So Melanie,
Dunaway,
no.
Zakor.
Yes,
Okay, motion carries. Item B, salary schedule for 2020-2022 new positions.
can,
Recommend approval of the salary schedules for the 3 new positions approved for the 2021-2022 school year. Joellen made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mrs. Heatherly and Mr. Patrick, is there any discussion? So we're looking at Director of Human Resources, Director of Curriculum Instruction, and Exceptional Children Program Coordinator.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Ready for the vote, Melanie?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patry,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes,
Motion carries. Item C, recommend approval to accept the following resignation. John Everson, high school teacher's aide, effective July 31st, 21, pending approval of his recommendation to hire as a technical support specialist. I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
second,
Motion and seconded by Mrs. Dunaway and Mrs. Dowell. Is there any discussion? Ready for the vote, Melanie?
Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patry,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes,
Motion carries. Item D, new hires. Recommend approval of the following staff for the 2021-2022 school year, pending proper certification and paperwork. And we are looking at our administrative staff positions of Director of Human Resources, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Tippecanoe High School Principal, Tippecanoe High School Assistant Principal, Exceptional Children Program Coordinator, Technical Support Specialist, and Cafeteria Substitute, all as stated in the agenda. Motion in a second.
a motion,
I'll second.
Mrs. Dahl and Mrs. Heatherly, is there any discussion? Melanie, ready for the vote?
Dahl,
yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Patry,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes,
Motion carries. Item E, contract correction. Approval to correct the previously approved contract due to clerical error, as per the agenda.
I'll move.
second,
Moved and seconded by Mrs. Dahl and Mrs. Heatherly. Is there any discussion? Ready for the vote, Melanie?
Okay, Heatherly,
Yes.
Dahl,
yes,
Dunaway,
Yes.
Patry,
Yes.
Zakor.
yes.
Motion carries. Item 3A, the next upcoming meetings.
Excuse me, point of order, Madam President. I would like to motion, while we're still in new business,
Okay.
to go back to 2A and add, okay, my motion would be adding to 2A motion of live streaming when possible, when technologically possible, without undue delay, to conduct meetings with the public, something to that effect.
Well, we already voted on that and it passed.
Well,
So if you're
I'm
gonna,
asking
you can't
to
change it.
amend. I'm
You can add a new thing, but you can't change that. That was already voted on and it passed.
Okay,
It's
then-
approved as stated by Mrs. Fox.
Why don't you put it back on the agenda if it needs to be revisited?
At least
We know what to do for the next meeting.
Yes, yeah,
We know
you
it'll
can
be
do
here.
that. Anybody that was in the majority part of it can re-add it to a future agenda to amend it.
Right, and that's already, yeah, but that's already voted on and passed, so.
I
that
understand
ship
that,
sailed.
but I thought I could motion, a new motion to add on to that, but, okay.
Okay, item 3A, upcoming meetings. The next work session scheduled for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 5 o'clock is canceled due to Board of Education training. Are we gonna, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, we probably have to pause on the actual date of the
Yeah.
Board of Education training because it has been revised. And so the July 21st date is going to be changed.
Okay, so do we want to do the 13th,
I don't care. I just
right?
want
Because
to put
it was already scheduled for work.
I'm in South Carolina.
I've already made plans.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. The Board of Education training will take place on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 at the Board of Education office beginning at 4 p.m. And we're actually using that to do your review, Mr. Stefanik.
Yes.
So we are gonna still do that. The next regular board meeting will take place on Monday, July 26th, 2021 at the Board of Education office beginning at 6 p.m.
So the training is not happening, correct, on the 21st?
Right, we're just gonna do Mark's
So it's
review
just
at
gonna be
4 o'clock.
a meeting, but
Yeah.
not a training.
Right, we're doing OSAS.
Okay.
So on the 21st, I have a question. We initially had training scheduled at 4
In Mark at
and
3.
3,
Right.
yes, so what are we doing on the time?
I can still come at 3 o'clock if everybody else can. That was our original date.
I can come at.
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
I won't be in attendance.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Anything else on the upcoming meetings? No?
Are we going to adjourn and figure out a mutual date to meet to reconvene the training?
Well, I think he probably has to get back with Mr.
Shall we as a group decide on a couple of dates so then he can then tell Mr. Britton these are when the board says are available?
To do that,
Did anybody get back to you? You asked us to get back to you with some dates. Did anybody? No?
to just one person.
Okay, okay.
Reply.
Okay. So do you have his dates or no?
He
just-
said that he said he has some flexibility
Gotcha.
in late July and early August.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's look in late July.
So for me, before the 20th would be the best for me. If it can't be before July 20th, I have to do August.
That's fine for me too. I just time of the day.
I'm not available until after July 20th.
Okay, so then July's out.
Okay.
So we have to look at
Early
August.
I can do anything, pretty much work, depending on the date, except Wednesdays. I can't make Wednesdays work.
So Corinne, your work schedule is obviously,
What time would he want this training? Is it an all-day training?
I said 4 hours.
3 to 4 hours.
Oh,
3 to 4
okay.
hours,
Well,
yeah.
then if you do it in the first 2 weeks, I can be here. That's cool.
Mrs. Heatherly, right,
August 10th, we have a work session. Could we all agree that that's when we'd like to do this training?
that
That
makes
makes
the most
sense to me.
sense, yeah.
Let's come up with an alternate date in case he's not available.
Because I think one of the things the guy said is that we all have to be in person.
Yes,
Correct.
so let me ask this,
Okay, so I have 8, 10, 5 o'clock, because it's a work session
Yeah.
already. That's the.
right, I was just gonna say, you can be there right
Slot
at
number
5 or a little-ish after
I can be there
5, 4:30?
Yeah, or I can have it 4. I just need to know.
Right, that's what I'm
It's gonna be-
asking.
4 would be great.
I think earlier would be better, yeah.
My suggestion to the body would be we make August 10th. If that doesn't work, we have Mark contact us and coordinate all our schedules, and then we announce it at that time.
Can you do 4 o'clock on August 10th, Simon?
Yes.
Okay, and Joellen can too.
I kind of like Joanne's idea though, Simon, we give him like at least one other date.
Okay,
just in
I
case.
So I'll
Yeah.
propose the 9th and the 11th. Those are the
Wait.
alternate dates.
I can do
Oh, the
that.
alternate? Okay. let me see.
Alternate dates.
Alternate.
So the prescribed date that we would all like to do would be.
Although on
The
the
11th,
11th,
Simon says,
my
he
husband does have a Ted Nugent concert. and I'm
Wait.
sure.
Simon says he can't do Wednesdays. Simon
Yeah.
can do
How about
Wednesdays.
the 9th?
Yeah.
So let's just do the 9th and the 10th, hopefully the
9th
10th,
and the
because it's
10th.
already a work session, Mr. Stefanik.
Yeah.
And
okay.
4 o'clock,
9th is.
August
for
10th.
Everybody,
August 10th, 4 o'clock.
okay? Or August 9th at 4 o'clock,
Yeah,
August
Okay.
9th
For the
and
work
10th.
for the board training.
4 o'clock.
And can I add something onto this? So for this, to really make it effective, I was hoping that we could either have some questions directly sent ahead of time to Mr. Britton or one-on-one time with Mr. Britton, so he gets a sense of everybody's concerns and positions, and I think it'll give him a better sense of how to address, how to present his development training as well.
I think we just have Mr. Britton tell us what we need to do and let him guide us through his format. He's the one that's training us, not try to dictate and manage how he's gonna approach the training.
I'm not trying to dictate anything. I'm trying to provide as much information to help a situation that is severe and and through that providing of information, make very effective improvements. So I'm not trying to dictate to anyone. I have conducted training sessions myself, and I always find it very helpful if I have, some key issues that, because it can be very comprehensive or it can be comprehensive and somewhat focused. So.
I'm gonna check on the date. I'll check with him about
Yeah.
how he likes to gather information about the groups that he works with.
Right, if there's any pre-work,
Yeah.
Mr. Britton will instruct
He'll let
us,
you-
right,
Yeah,
perfect.
okay,
I would let him decide how we do that, and then.
Right.
If
I'll let you know.
we do what he wants.
But I'm going to say also as a board member, it's not that I'm going to prevent him from doing that. I just want to offer my input. If you could feel free to pass it on to Mr. Britton. I personally think it would be very helpful to be able to have, maybe for him to have some individualized insight into this process, because I feel that certain comments that repetitively get made at meetings, sort of jabbing this member, jabbing that member, and seating this and seating that, is part of the reason why we need board development. Thank you.
Have the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Looking for a motion and a second to adjourn,
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Patry and Mrs. Dahl. Melanie, you can call the roll.
At the same time, a fourth and a fifth.
If I wouldn't have been talking, I would have done it. Ready for the roll, Melanie?
Patry,
Yes.
Dahl.
yes.
Dunaway.
Yes,
Heather is not here, Zakor.
Yes.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Um,
Get these contracts signed.